What's up everyone, welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, Karens, and all that kind of stuff. So as usual, be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet for more Reddit content, and let's get into today's stories. Guests followed me out to my boyfriend's car and got a rude awakening. So last night, about 15 minutes before I was getting ready to clock out for the night at my hotel job, me and the hotel maintenance man were having a conversation about the local comedy club that is not too far from our hotel. He was asking me if I knew any of the comedians that would be performing there this week. I told him no after getting on the website to look. I was just about to start to print my paperwork so I could leave, when out of nowhere both of us look up and see this very creepy looking man looking at us. He was standing in front of me and I did not see him right away because my monitor was raised high over my head. I am very short, so yeah. Anyways, this man told us, "What famous well-known guy did you say you are surprised she does not know?" He said this because I had told our maintenance guy that I did not know who a comedian was on the club's roster. The creepy guy then goes on to say, "I bet she knows me, I'm really big." Both me and our maintenance man were a little creeped out because we had not seen anyone around us while we were talking that was that close to us where they could overhear our conversation. So we were just looking at each other like, what the hell, how did he hear that, and how long has he been listening to us? He was clearly drunk and possibly also under the influence of drugs, because we found out later that he had only had 2 drinks all night from the bar, but seemed much more intoxicated than that. Anyways, things got creepier quickly. He asked us if we knew of any places he could go to have fun that were close to the hotel, since our bar had just closed for the night. Normal questions, of course, but he was using this as a gateway to creep on me. The maintenance man told him of a bar that was open until 2 a.m. near us, and I told him a karaoke bar that he could go to and gave him the address. He then asked me if I had gone to it before. I told him yes, with my boyfriend and my best friend, and that we had went recently and it was fun. This is when it got creepy. "Oh, I see. Well, do you and your boyfriend have children?" he asked me. I said no, and I do not want any. Then he asked me if I wanted to be the stepmother to his child. I declined and said I'm not interested at all. The maintenance man got involved and told him, "Look, buddy, she has a boyfriend, she's not interested." The creep then asks him, "What, are you the boyfriend? Are you guys together or something?" The maintenance man lets him know that we are just coworkers. The man then tells him, "Well, there are just so many beautiful people working in this hotel, and I figured since you are beautiful and she is beautiful, maybe you were together." It's finally time for me to clock out, so I shut down my computer and leave. I let our front desk supervisor know that this man was being creepy, was inebriated, and needed to be dealt with. I was ignored, of course, and brushed off. He told me, "Oh man, you always get the weird guys." Yeah, and I was telling him that so he could step in and tell the guy to go away like a supervisor should do, but he did not. I went to go clock out and then came back to the front to leave, but I saw that the weird guy was still talking to the maintenance man. I overheard him tell him he needed to go home with someone tonight. The maintenance guy told him, "Well, buddy, it's not going to be me, so I think we need to either get you to your room if you have one or get you to a cab." I decided to wait for my boyfriend in the hotel in the back office area, because I had a feeling this guy was going to be the type to try to follow me out to the parking lot. I waited until my boyfriend had texted me to let me know he was in front of the hotel. Usually I will wait outside and sit for him because our hotel is in a very safe area. When my boyfriend let me know he was there, I walked outside to meet him. He was parked close to the loading area where guests unload luggage, but not right in front of the door. As I opened the truck door, I noticed my boyfriend looking at someone behind me. He was looking at this person in a "who the hell are you" kind of way. I then turned my head around and saw the creepy guy was about a foot behind me and staring my boyfriend down, who was in the driver's seat. I got in fast and slammed the door shut and we drove off. He asked me who that was and I told him this creep who was bothering me. As we drove off, we still saw him behind us looking at the truck driving off, and then he got on his phone. My boyfriend was pretty upset after I told him that I had told the supervisor about the guy and that he did not step in and tell the man to stop harassing me or the maintenance man. I called the hotel while on the ride home and told them what had happened to me. He was kicked out today, thank God. This is the first time that finally someone had been DNR'd at our hotel. I never thought I would see the day. Turns out he was always harassing the female bartender we had on duty that night as well. I am not sure why he was not kicked out of the hotel when he was acting like this in the bar. Bridge troll neighbor called the cops to report me for domestic violence. I'm a 28-year-old female. My boyfriend Derek, 26, and I live in a beautiful 110-year-old home that has been bisected, landlord special style, into 2 separate suites. We love our cozy home with all of its charm, aka squeaky old oak floors, whistling chimney, groaning pipes, and rattling radiators. We understood when we moved in that heritage-aged homes come with thin walls, but we figured it wouldn't be too big a problem as we're both quiet nerds. Context of who we are here matters. Our hobbies are puzzles, video games, cozy movie nights in, books, and D&D. Derek and I are, simply put, kinda boring, but we're best friends and we love our cozy life. If we host anything, it's my weekly weekend Dungeons & Dragons game, or Tuesday night bi-weekly book club. We are not loud or wild, just 2 nerds and our little cat. So Unit 2 is leased by a guy who sublets the bedroom that is directly below my kitchen. The first sub-tenant in there we nicknamed Karaoke Guy, due to his daily performances that would last often until midnight. We found the noise more fun than annoying, and we liked humming along to his 5 times daily Mr. Brightside performances. The Karaoke Guy moved away, and we missed him immediately. Karaoke Guy swapped for Bridge Troll. Bridge Troll was an older man, maybe mid-50s, who brought with him a little car that was not assigned a space, as we only have 2 spaces, 1 per unit, so he parked in our spot, which we need/use. I texted the landlord about it, car was moved. Not a big deal, right? Wrong. 1 day in, he continually parked in our spot, despite being told by the landlord that he was to use the street. Derek drives a large work van full of company tools, so street parking was also a robbery risk for us. Bridge Troll kicked up such a fuss that my landlord asked if we would mind parking on the grass on the side of the house from now on, as Bridge Troll says the work van is often parked directly in front of his door. Not true. We complied for the sake of peace. During this time we'd also been hearing banging from the room downstairs, but we had thought nothing of it, chalked it up to moving in sounds or maybe workout equipment being used. We were so wrong. The banging was a daily occurrence for the next 8 months, sometimes with a few days between that felt like heaven. Every day, any time after 7:30ish, banging and swearing and threats. More on this soon. 1 month in, Derek and I were just about to head to bed one night and I went to the kitchen for water, so maybe 11:45 p.m. Before I could head back, we heard a series of very loud bangs on our front door. We see the old wooden door rattling from the force. I immediately yelled for Derek to help, as I was scared. Derek came out, checked the peephole, and opened the door to Bridge Troll, who immediately started screaming at us to, quote, shut the f*** up, and that he was going to call the police for all of the noise. Derek is a giant guy, 6'3" lumberjack type. I am very small. Derek is a gentle giant. I grabbed a knife and yelled from the kitchen that he best calm down or I'd hit dial on 911. Bridge Troll screamed at us to shut the f*** up a few more times, and Derek just said, okay, then slowly closed the door on him. He left after a few more minutes of screaming at the door, and Derek put my riled self to bed. I texted the landlord about this, but got no reply. The next thing we noticed was that the banging was clearly not random. We had assumed the best, but after this, the banging was very clearly only under my kitchen, his bedroom, and any time we so much as stepped foot in there, or the adjacent library or dining room after 7:30ish p.m. Bridge Troll had acquired a nasty habit of pounding on his ceiling while screaming that he was calling 911 and that we need to shut the f*** up, shut up, be quiet, go to hell. I again texted my landlord and began keeping a record of exactly what date and time this was happening. No reply from the landlord for the first month of this. 2 months in, we moved a huge rug into the dining area to reduce noise, started using headphones for music as we cooked, and set up a TV in our bedroom for movie nights, as it's the opposite side of the house. But nope, not good enough for Bridge Troll. 3 months in, this gets worse as I was injured in a fire during this time. I was on bed rest and I could barely walk as I had 3rd-degree burns on about 35% of my left leg, and 2nd-degree spanning up a lot of my left side and hands. This is about the time Bridge Troll started calling the police. 4 months in. When Derek was at work one day, I felt better enough to hobble to the kitchen, get a snack, and set up in the living room for a movie. Within minutes, the banging and yelling started. I was at my wit's end, hopped up on painkillers in severe pain, having just had my second round of flesh removal that morning, when I heard, "This is the police department," alongside some banging on the door. I hobbled to the door, which is extremely painful when you're healing burns. Movement felt like a cheese grater was against my whole left side, and explained the situation to the officer. Luckily, he said he thinks my neighbor is crazy, as once he arrived, he went to his door first and he refused to answer. I was wished a speedy recovery and went back to my movie. Bridge Troll banged on the door several more times that day, when I was literally not able to even be walking around. At this point, I called my landlord. Voicemail, but I did finally receive a text. Landlord explained she has been in China for a few months, so she didn't get my texts, but that she would tell the tenant to get his subtenant under control. No changes. 5 months in. Derek was out of town, about a 3-hour drive away, sleeping over at a friend's house. My burns were healing extremely well, and I was able to take care of myself again. I was celebrating this with a cozy reading night and was at the popcorn making stage, maybe 9 p.m. on a weekend. I heard the banging, but this far in I just ignored it. This was until I saw a dark figure in my yard. Our yard is not shared, and from a window in my library room I could see all of it without being in view myself with the lights off. I hunkered myself behind the curtain and peered out, and what do I see? Bridge Troll. I braced myself for a repeat of the door incident, but without Derek to keep it calm. I normally feel I can protect myself, but at this time I am still heavily bandaged and have no epidermis on a lot of my body. Bridge Troll, however, did not knock. He skulked around trying to peer into my living room windows. I watched while I dialed 911 and whispered to the dispatcher that I was a toasted marshmallow in danger. But as I did, Bridge Troll walked back to his unit. The police arrived and they took my statement, but said that technically he didn't do anything illegal. So they would try to talk to him and make a report, but that's all they could do. Bridge Troll didn't answer his door, and Derek did a frantic late-night drive home to protect his crispy girlfriend. 6 months in, the landlord finally got involved. She came and did a suite inspection on us both. She did him first, then came to us. She said she is very happy with the state of our home and that we have clearly tried to minimize noise. She said her hands are tied, as it is hard to evict a subtenant without evicting the tenant, and she liked the actual tenant as he's been there without issues for years. She offered Bridge Troll a different unit she rents in town at a discounted rate, but he refused it and demanded we be kicked out. She told us that he texts her often to complain about the noise and the partying and fighting in our suite, to which we all laughed. Apparently, even the landlord doesn't think Derek and I look like hard partiers. Soon after, while Derek was working late, I was interrupted by the police at my door. The police were responding to reports of a domestic dispute turned violent. I let them in and they saw that I was alone. They asked if I felt safe, if Derek was coming back, if I would like to go to the station to talk. I was thankful but explained that Derek is a big teddy bear of a man, and we never raise our voices at one another. I asked if the neighbor reported this, and they said they could not disclose, but I knew. 7 months in, Bridge Troll calmly knocks on our door. Derek and I answer it, and I do all of the talking. Bridge Troll said he just wanted to talk. We did, and I told him all of the accommodations we made, but that it's an old thin-walled home. He was having none of this, and even refused my offer of taking my number so he could text for quiet, instead of banging and calling the cops. He called the cops on us again the next day, as apparently my book club sounded like a real rager. 8 months in. At this point, Derek and I were discussing moving when the lease ended in a few months' time. I was at my wit's end. I admit I lost my cool. I'm sorry. One night I had the world's longest and crappiest day, and I went to make some comfort tea. When the banging started up for the 3rd time in this one kettle boiling session, I stomped my feet against the ground while shouting, "No, you shut up. F you, f off, f this," and then proceeded to get out a dining chair, sit down, and scoot around on it for a minute until I calmed down. Shockingly, no cops were involved in this and he stopped banging for the day. The final month. At this point, my landlord had actually served the tenant an eviction warning letter. Everything got quiet. We managed to get through September with peace. One warm, sunny October day, I noticed that Bridge Troll's car was gone, and had been for days. The next day, a moving truck rolled up, and several young men shuffled items into my neighbor's house. As quickly as it had begun, it was over. Bridge Troll was gone. It was then that the heavy overcast clouds parted, and a clear blue sky beyond them shone through. We had been saved. With the evil Bridge Troll gone, our home seemingly heated itself with the sheer force of the love and relief we felt. F the Bridge Troll, this is our swamp. Now I can safely get myself a cup of tea whenever I like. Anyway guys, that's gonna be it for today. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. And if you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more Reddit content like this. So take care, I'll see you all next time.